ॐ नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय करुणापूर्णसुदाब्धे कबलितघनविश्वरूपकिरणावल्या अरुणाचलपरमात्मन् अरुणो भवचित्तकञ्जसुविकासाय वन्दे श्रीरमणऋषे आचार्यस्य पदाब्जम् यो मे दर्शयधीशम् भान्तं ध्वान्तमतीत्यः अखण्डसच्चिदानन्दे परब्रह्मण्यलौकिके विलसन्तं गुरुं नौमिं सर्वदा हृद्यहं भजे. Day by Day with Bhagavan, episode number 8, 22/1/1946. Early in the morning, immediately after Parayana, Bhagavan gave Balaram the Telugu stanza and asked for his suggestions for improving it. Balaram replied, "What suggestions are there for me to make?" Bhagavan said, "I don't know. I must ask people like you," and put the verse in the revolving shelf. 23/1/1946 night. Dr. Srinivasa Rao asked whether in stanza 10 of the supplement to Reality in 40 verses, Bhagavan does not teach us to affirm Soham. Bhagavan explained it as follows. It is said the whole Vedanta can be compressed into the 4 words Deham, Naham, Koham, Soham. This stanza says the same. In the first 2 lines, it is explained why Deham is Naham, that is, why the body is not I or Na Aham. The next 2 lines say if one inquires Ko Aham, that is, who am I, that is, if one inquires whence this I springs and realizes it, then in the heart of such a one, the omnipresent God Arunachala will shine as I, as Sa Aham or Soham, that is, he will know that I am, that is, that is I. In this connection, Bhagavan also quoted 2 stanzas, one from Thayumanavar and the other from Nammalvar, the gist of both of which is, though I have been thinking I was a separate entity and talking of I and mine, when I began to inquire about this I found you alone exist. The 2 stanzas and their meaning are given below. 1. Searching who this I was, soon I found you only standing as the heaven of bliss, you only, blessed Lord, Thayumanavar. 2. Not knowing who I was, I used to speak of I and mine, but I am you and mine is you, Lord, whom all the gods adore, Nammalvar. 24/1/1946 morning. Bhagavan picked out the above 2 verses for me and also quoted the following 2 lines from the 7th stanza Ananda Manaparam in Thayumanavar. Though I have become you and you alone exist, undestroyed the I persists, as I within that knows and I that turns to what is known, the many things knowing and unknowing. Bhagavan added that many similar quotations could be found elsewhere among Alvar's songs. Dr. S. Rao took the book Tiruvaimozhi from Bhagavan's hand and said, I see there is a commentary also on this stanza which says, I discovered that I am you and all that I called mine is you. The Visishtadvaita commentator said, I reached so near God as to regard I and mine as God Himself. Dr. S. Rao said, the self-realized ones could not possibly differ among themselves and the leaders of the various schools, if they were self-realized men, could not have said anything contradictory to each other's teachings. But their followers must have misunderstood or misinterpreted their teachings in such a way as to lead to all these schisms and latter-day quarrels. Dr. S. Rao said that while he was at Salem, a gentleman often quoted to him a verse from Saint Nammalvar in which the Alvar describes the deity at Tirupati as both Vishnu and Shiva. The post brought an English translation from Mr. D.S. Shastri of his sister's Telugu letters regarding Bhagavan's trip to Skandashramam on 25/11/45, and the same was read out in the hall by Mr. Vishwanatha Iyer. The Patashala boys had shown Bhagavan a printed picture, 4 rabbits make a great leader. When I came to the hall about 10:15, Bhagavan asked if I had seen it. I said no, and thereupon he sent for it and showed it to me. Bhagavan said, you must first see the 4 rabbits and then see how they make up Gandhi. Afternoon. When I entered the hall about 3 p.m., Bhagavan was already searching for the stanza that Dr. S. mentioned. In a little time, we got at the stanza. It begins Tal Chiraiyum and is said to have been composed by Peyarvar when he saw the deity at Tirupati. Night. Attendant Krishnaswamy told Bhagavan that he wanted to go to Madras to see Mahatma Gandhi and that he would return on Sunday. Bhagavan said, ask Sarvadhikari. Don't say afterwards I gave you permission to go. He added, if he goes away now, the Sarvadhikari may not admit him when he comes back. If he objects to taking him back on his return from Madras, what can I do? What authority have I here? In spite of all this, K went away, informing Bhagavan he would go and return. 25/1/1946 afternoon. Lokammal sang Tirukazhukundra Padigam from Tiruvachagam. Muruganar thereupon asked what the meaning of Nanonadathor Nanamayadi, became ashamed without becoming ashamed, was. Bhagavan said it might be one of those expressions like Nadamala Nati Ninayamala Ninaindu, searched without searching, thought without thinking, and Ninayadal Eppadi Ninaikirathu. இதெல்லாம் எப்படி சொல்லது வேறே சொல்ற வழியில்லை. How is one to think without thinking? These are all ways of saying. There is no other way of saying. Similarly, Muruganar asked what the allusion was in இயக்கிமார் அறுபத்து நாளவரை என் குணம் கொந்த ஈசனே, O Lord, who bestowed the 8 spiritual attainments on the 64 yakshas. Bhagavan was not sure but thought it was one of the stories in Thiruvilayadal Puranam. I went and brought my copy of Tiruvachakam with commentary by Subramaniam Pillai. On Nanonada, etc., the book threw no light at all. As for the latter line, the book said the allusion was to the story of Utrakoshamangai. Bhagavan got the Tiruvilayadal Puranam but could not find the story there. The story found there was another, though also about 6 Yakshas. Muruganar remarked, "This story of Uttarakosamangai does not seem to have been published. It appears that many things in Saint Manikya Vachagar's life and many sayings or songs of his would be better elucidated if we could get at the above book. We must enquire to see if that book can be had." Night. After Parayana, Bhagavan asked Vishwanatha Iyer, "What places did you visit?" We replied, "We went to Guha Namasivayer's cave, the Mango Tree Cave, Virupaksha Cave, and Skandashramam. We returned by the new path, which is so well made that we could return without effort. It is such a slope." Bhagavan asked whether they went by a cross cut from Mulaipal Tirtham, and we said yes. Bhagavan said, "When I now see those places, I wonder how we lived in those places which were then all rocks, stones, and thorns. But then we were quite comfortable and at home. We never felt any inconvenience. There would be no light. We would walk even in the dark among all those rocks and shrubs. As one remarked, we had both lights and eyes in our feet." When I stepped out of the hall, Miss Suna Dorabji, she and her father are frequent visitors to the ashramam and ardent devotees of Bhagavan, told me it was she who was escorted by Mr. V to all the above caves. 26/1/1946 morning. Bhagavan mentioned a book about the Madhva school. Dr. S. Rao took out from the shelf and gave me 2 pamphlets by one B.N. Krishnamurti Sharma, formerly of Annamalai University, on certain philosophical bases of Madhva's theistic realism. Bhagavan said that the gentleman came the day before yesterday and gave these pamphlets in person. He came and spoke in Sanskrit. He is the principal of the Sanskrit college at Tiruvayar. He says everyone must speak in Sanskrit. He says he has read a lot and is not able to realize the truth. We advised him to read our books and see if they help. He has taken some books from here. Bhagavan looked into those pamphlets for a few minutes here and there, but he was not interested and said, "This is all for scholars." Dr. S. pointed out a certain passage dealing with Mukti and saying that even after Mukti, each jiva retains its individuality, that among those who have attained Mukti, there are several grades with a hierarchy of jivas and so on. Dr. S. said, "So long as there are others, one will have fear. So long as there are higher stages, one will have a desire to reach them. So this can't be that stage without fear or desire, which alone can yield perfect peace." Bhagavan approved of this and quoted a Sanskrit text about that supreme state without fear or desire. The blind Muslim from the Punjab, already referred to, again came to the hall today. Bhagavan read an account only a few minutes ago in the Swadesha Mitran of a blind man of Nellore, aged 41, who had darshan of Mahatma Gandhi at Madras and who could repeat the entire Gita with Shankara's commentary. This led us to talk about the similarity in the two cases, as this Muslim can repeat the whole Quran. Bhagavan was reading the Telugu paper Zameen Rayat and came across some verses in Telugu by Kanakamma and Lakshmi Bai of Nellore, devotees of Bhagavan and frequent visitors here. He asked Balaram to cut the verses and paste them in the file book. These verses were composed and read out here last Jayanti but are published now in the paper, Bhagavan told us. The verses were read out in the hall by Nagamma today at Mrs. Talayar Khan's request. When the bell rang for lunch, Bhagavan said about the blind Muslim, "See if he will stay for lunch, and if so, somebody who knows Hindi must take charge of him and be with him." And he was satisfied only after we said that he would be looked after carefully by us. Afternoon. At Mrs. Tarayar Khan's request, Nagamma read out and Balaram translated into English her account of what took place here on Mattu Pongal Day. She also read out another account of what took place one day in September when some Bangalore devotees brought 2 pigeons and requested Bhagavan to keep them in the ashramam. How the pigeons had the great good fortune to be caressed by Bhagavan and to be seated on his lap, and how for nearly 1 hour they remained quiet as if in samadhi, was all beautifully recorded by Nagamma, and Mr. Balaram translated this also. I had the pamphlet on Madhwa's philosophy in my hand, and Bhagavan asked me, "Have you read it?" I said, "This does not interest me." As Bhagavan remarked, it might interest only great scholars, but I find this author also asks, as I sometimes used to feel, why should we refuse to treat anything as real unless it exists always? Bhagavan said, "How can anything be said to be real which is only a passing show?" Somebody in the hall said, "All this difficulty arises because of translation into English. The Sanskrit word is Satyam, which means not reality, but that which exists always." Balaram also quoted Bhagavad Gita, which says, "That which exists never ceases to exist. That which does not exist at any time has no existence. இல்லாததற்கு இருப்பில்லை, உள்ளதனுக்கில்லாமை என்பதில்லை." Sometime later, Subbulakshmi Ammal, a Brahmin widow who has long been doing service in the kitchen here, told Bhagavan, "I had not so far seen the cave where the Kirai party lived, so I went and saw the place yesterday." Bhagavan asked, "Which is the cave you saw?" S said, "It is called Alamaradu Guhai. I saw it." Bhagavan said, "On the day we all returned from Skandashramam, it is here Kirai Party lived. So I thought it was that cave." Bhagavan said, "No, that is not the cave where she lived. She lived only in the mandapam in the Guhai Namasivayar temple nearby. I lived in the cave now called Alamaradu Guhai for some time. There was no banyan tree then. That tree as well as all the trees on both sides up to Virupaksha cave were all planted and watered by Kandaswami, who planned and created Skandashramam later. Then Bhagavan, in a reminiscent mood, added, "This Kirai party was at the big temple even when I first came and was sitting at the Subramanya temple there. She used to provide food to sadhus in the temple. Later, she began bringing food to me from one Kammala, blacksmith lady, who used to send it. After some time, that Kammala lady herself began bringing the food to me instead of sending it through Kirai Party. Then Kirai Party used to have a big jeta, matted locks. When I afterwards came to live in Virupaksha cave, she was living in the Guhai Namasivaya temple, and she had then removed all her hair. She lived in the mandapam there and used to worship the images of Namasivaya, etc., carved on the walls and pillars of the mandapam. The priest would come and worship the image inside, but she worshipped and offered food to the images on the wall in the mandapam where she lived. She would get up in the morning, go out for a stroll on the small hill, proceed towards the place where our ashramam is now, and go round to where Skandashramam is and come down to her place. By that time, she would have collected fuel, cow dung, etc., and bundled them up behind her back. And in her lap, she would have gathered a lot of green leaves of all sorts for cooking. She had only one pot. She would first boil water in that pot and bathe. In the same pot, she would cook her rice, make her sauce, prepare any side dish such as the leaves she had brought, each by turns, offer the food to the images on the wall or pillar, bring them to me, and then go and have her own meal. In the evening, she would go into the town. There was not a house in the town which she did not know. She would go and ask for various things and get them. Coming to me, she would say, "A good soul gave me a handful of broken rice. I have made porridge out of it." But if one went and looked, there would be in her place various provisions and a big pot full of broken rice. That was the sort of woman she was. She was very fond of me. I also used to go to her now and then. I would help her sometimes to gather green leaves, example from a drumstick tree. I would also help her sometimes in cleaning and plucking the leaves preparatory to their being cooked. Sometimes I used to stay there and eat with her. I asked Bhagavan when she died. He said, "She died before we came here. She was buried only here opposite the Dakshinamurti temple under a tamarind tree." Soon after Parayana was over, about 6:15 p.m., the monkeys, seeing that the window near Bhagavan at which they used to come and beg for fruits and nuts was closed, came near the doorway on the same side, and the ladies and children who wanted to go out of the hall by that doorway were frightened. In connection with this, Mr. Vishwanatha Iyer used the word mandi and said it denoted a male monkey. I believe it means the very reverse. See this from Pillai Perumal Ayyangar. மண்மூலன் தாவென்று மந்தி கடுவர் தரைப்பா. The Manti asked her mate to give her roots from the earth. Thereupon Muruganar said, Mandi is used generally to denote both sexes and especially to denote the female sex. Bhagavan quoted Mandikkuralai Yadutai Nillai. I am not like the little one of a monkey of Saint Pattinadar, and said there evidently it must refer to the mother monkey, and went on to recollect one song from Tiruppugal and another from Pattinadar's Udarkotruvannam, in which the word Mandi occurs. These two songs were picked out at once. The first one is Parani Vaguppu. The portion referred to in it was read out by Bhagavan and explained to us. It is in praise of the fertility of Parani and says, the Manthi sitting on the Areka nut tree sees the flowers on the sandalwood trees nearby, and thinking they are hoods of snakes, jumps in fear onto another tree, and the branches so vacated, first bending down and then rising up, strike against the fully ripe plantain fruits hanging in bunches in the plantain trees nearby, and scatter the plantains, which in their turn fall on the jackfruits lying underneath, and set flowing the honey forming in them, so that the same honey, released in huge quantities, flows in streams and waters the adjoining forest of Shambhaga trees. All this was explained by Bhagavan. On previous occasions too, I have heard Bhagavan give this as an example of our poets exaggerating the fertility of a country. The other lines in Pattinadar were also picked out. They are Varuvadu Pova Turumudu Kunumudi Inuvayadu Tandi Nadanadu Mariyu Vilandu Chelitimir Bandu. Bhagavan read this song right up to the end, reading the same according to the meter. 27/1/1946 morning. Krishna Swami returned this morning as he had promised to do. Bhagavan was making kind enquiries about his trip to see Gandhiji at Madras. K said there were huge crowds in the train and that he had to stand all the way from here to Madras, that there again there was a crowd of more than 100,000, that there was an ocean of cars parked at one corner, that anyhow through the kind of offices of some of our friends he sat quite near Mahatma Gandhi with a 6 rupee ticket, that later all the crowd rushed in breaking the gates, that Gandhi refused to speak in any language except Hindi, and so on. Bhagavan said, "You have seen Gandhi. Now you know and have enjoyed the pleasure to be got out of such trips." And so saying, he gave back the ticket with the remark, "Keep it safe. It is worth 6 rupees." K also brought a number of photographs, big and small, presented to him by Dr. T.N.K., in many of which he and Bhagavan are found together. In this connection, Nagamma told Bhagavan that Vishwanatha Iyer's mother wanted to see Bhagavan's pictures taken recently at Skandashramam. He ordered the album to be brought and shown to the lady, and it was done. K told Bhagavan, Dr. T.N.K. said he would send some medicines through me to Bhagavan, but I had no time even to meet him again and take them. TPR will bring them. Bhagavan said, "Why medicines? What is wrong with me now? I am all right. All this is unnecessary fuss. Why did you go and ask him to send me medicines?" K said, "I did not ask. He himself said he would send them, and he is also planning to come and see Bhagavan." Bhagavan remarked, he would have asked you, how is Bhagavan? And you would have said something. Otherwise, why should he send medicine? K said, when one is asked like that, how can one keep quiet? We have to speak. K also told Bhagavan, some of our friends wished to suggest to Mahatma Gandhi that he should visit our ashramam. But when they consulted Mr. O. P. Ramaswamy Reddy, he said, here none of us has any access to Mahatma Gandhi. Rajaji alone has influence. Bhagavan thereupon said he won't be allowed to come to such places. Avarellam Indayellam Varavidamatta. About a week ago, Bhagavan was mentioning that once the Mahatma came to this place, was near the cattle fair site, a furlong or less from our ashramam, finished his business there in less time than the time fixed for it, collected a purse and left the place. K also brought news that the Mahatma told people that he was frequently thinking of Bhagavan and had great reverence for him. Bhagavan said, yes, yes, that may be so. Whenever anybody tells him he has no peace of mind, he packs them off here, telling them, go and stay at Ramanashramam for a time. They come and tell us. Later, after 10 a.m., Bhagavan was reading Dinamani and coming across an article there on the temple at Perur near Coimbatore, read it out to us and said, it is news to me. We do not hear of this in the life of Sundaramurti or in the Periya Puranam, but it may be in the Sthala Puranam. This is the story. On a particular day in the year, the god and the goddess are taken out to an adjoining field, and the festival of the god and goddess transplanting seedlings on behalf of a devotee is celebrated in memory of the fact that one day Sundaramurti Swami entered the temple and found to his dismay that neither god nor goddess was there, and that on searching for them he found them in a field working at transplanting for this devotee, a Harijan. 28/1/1946 morning. Mr. P. B. Ray, who has been staying here for about a month now, has finished his Bengali life of Bhagavan. He read his dedication, translated into English before Bhagavan, and said he had first heard of Bhagavan from somebody in Madras some years ago, and soon after he began writing this life, and it has taken him 4 years to complete this. Bhagavan said that long ago some Bengali had written a small life of his in a Bengali journal, and that some more articles had also appeared in some Bengali papers or journals about him. Mr. Ray said he had written the 2 articles now mentioned by Bhagavan. Thereupon, Bhagavan searched for the other Bengali article and traced it and gave it to Mr. Ray for perusal. It was in a journal called Amrit and published in 1934. The author of the article was Jagadishananda Swami of the Ramakrishna Mission. Mr. Ray perused it and told me in the evening that the article touched on all points but somehow omitted to make any mention of the experience of Bhagavan arising from the idea of death and resulting in his self-realization, which happened at Madura before his coming here. One Gokul Bhai, who was here recently, has written that he tried to bring Gandhiji here, but he found that Gandhiji peremptorily ordered that nothing at all should be added to his program, which was already too crowded. Bhagavan added, "They can't find time for all this." 29/1/1946 afternoon. Bhagavan took up the new edition of Ramana Leela, Telugu Life of Bhagavan, and casually opening it, came across odd stanzas composed by him, like those about drinking water before, during, and after meals, and about those who run after siddhis being even worse than the magicians, and expressed surprise. "He has added all this in this edition. I have not seen it so far. When did he take all this and add it in this edition?" While Bhagavan was still looking into this new edition, a visitor asked, "I came here about a year ago, and ever since I have been trying to follow Bhagavan's instructions. I am not, however, succeeding very well. I try to look at all women as mothers, but I don't succeed." Bhagavan did not reply, and the visitor continued, "While I am at home, it is all right, but when I go out and see women, I am not able to control my mind and am swept off my feet. What should I do?" He also added, "I want Atma Sakshatkaram. What should I do? I pray for Bhagavan's blessings." After a pause, Bhagavan replied, "You say you are all right when at home. Be at home in the mind. Don't allow it to go outwards, but turn it inwards and keep it at home there. Then all will be well and you will have Atma Sakshatkaram. The trouble is we think we are the mind. See if we are the mind." The visitor said, "I am a Grihastha. Still, I want to practice Brahmacharya even with my wife, but I am not able to succeed. What should I do?" Bhagavan replied, "That is because of age-long vasanas. The sankalpas are so powerful because they have existed so long, but they will go." Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Sarvam Sri Ramanarpanamastu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.